The temperature in the boardroom plummeted as my brother's voice filled the air from the speakers. Between us, Lauren's not leadership material, he said, his recorded words dripping with false concern. She's brilliant in the lab, sure, but this role? She's gonna crash hard. I watched as 5 board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes darting between the manila envelope of forged documents on the table and my brother Nicholas, who sat frozen across from me. His perfectly tailored suit suddenly seemed to hang wrong on his frame. Behind him, our parents' expressions transformed from smug anticipation to dawning horror as recording after recording played. Have you noticed any irregularities in her department's finances? Nicholas's voice continued from another recording. Might be worth a closer look. My mother's hand flew to her pearl necklace, the one I'd secretly bought her last Christmas, though she believed it came from Nicholas. My father's jaw clenched so tight I could almost hear his expensive dental work protesting. Any other recordings you'd like to share with the board, Mr. Chen? I asked quietly, nodding to the board chairman. I think we've heard enough, Miss Parker, he replied, looking directly at Nicholas. More than enough. My name is Lauren. I'm 34 and a biomedical engineer. This is the story of how I revealed myself as the secret owner of the company my family tried to destroy me at. For 18 years, I'd lived in my younger brother's shadow, while I worked 3 jobs to put myself through Georgia Tech on scholarship. Nicholas glided through Stanford on our parents' dime. Nicholas needs support, Mom would say, her voice softening whenever she spoke his name. Then she turned to me with that familiar edge. You've always been so independent, Lauren. Independent. They're code for, we don't need to worry about you. Independent meant I slept 4 hours a night between lab work, tutoring jobs, and coding gigs, while Nicholas posted Instagram stories from yacht parties in Monaco. Independent meant Christmas dinners where everyone fawned over Nicholas's corporate sales job, while my research fellowships were treated like eccentric hobbies. I endured it all silently, focused on a vision they couldn't see. By 30, I had launched and sold 2 biotech startups, the first for $50 million, the second for $180 million. Each time I kept my name off press releases, funneled profits through shell companies, and maintained the facade of being just another mid-level executive grinding away at her career. You should talk to Nicholas, Mom suggested last Thanksgiving, pushing cranberry sauce toward me like a peace offering. He can help you get into real business. Dad nodded enthusiastically, patting Nicholas on the shoulder. 29 and already managing teams of 15 people, he boasted. Though Nicholas had never mentioned that number before, I smiled politely and changed the subject. What they didn't know was that I was executing my masterpiece, a stealth acquisition of Everland Dynamics, the cutting-edge biotech firm where I'd been working for just over a year. Using a complex web of trusts and entities, I'd gained controlling interest without anyone realizing the buyer's identity. When the board named me Chief Strategy Officer, they thought they were promoting a loyal employee with promising ideas. They didn't realize they were giving the seat to the new owner. I'd planned to maintain the charade for at least another year, gradually implementing my vision for the company while keeping my family's expectations safely low. But Nicholas had other plans. His reaction to my promotion was immediate and visceral. Must be nice to finally catch a break, he said with a smirk during our monthly family dinner. Though I hope you're not in over your head. Corporate leadership's a whole different beast than tinkering with science projects. Mom and Dad exchanged anxious glances across the dinner table. Maybe Nicholas could mentor you, Mom chimed in, her tone dripping with concern. He's been managing teams for years, sweetheart. I smiled and nodded. The acquisition papers, locked safely in my home office. I'll keep that in mind, I said, taking a deliberate sip of wine. But Nicholas wasn't content with smug comments. My promotion had upended the family hierarchy where he'd always been the golden child, while I was the quiet, awkward one who never quite fit. The first warning sign came when he began appearing at Everland Dynamics for casual lunches with department heads. From my office window, I watched him charming senior staff, feigning concern for his overwhelmed sister, subtly probing for any sign of weakness in my leadership. Then came the anonymous tips to HR, accusations of falsified degrees and inflated credentials, all baseless, all easily disproven, but they sent a clear message. Someone was systematically trying to undermine me. I'm just worried about you, Nicholas said, sweetly when I confronted him over coffee. His eyes, so like our father's, watched me with calculated concern. You know how it is. Tech companies promote women a little too quickly these days. Got to hit those diversity numbers. He stirred his latte with precision. I'd hate to see you crash and burn in front of everyone. I let him keep digging, curious how far he'd go. That answer arrived yesterday morning, delivered in a sealed envelope to the board of directors. Inside was a meticulously prepared dossier filled with forged bank statements, altered emails, and a timeline painting me as a fraud, embezzlement, insider trading, falsified reports. It was a masterclass in malicious fabrication, and the board had called an emergency meeting for Friday morning. Nicholas must have heard through his corporate grapevine, because at dinner last night, he was practically glowing. "The board wants me present tomorrow," he announced grandly, raising his wine glass. "Apparently, there's going to be a big change at the top." Mom and Dad beamed with pride, neither asking why I wasn't invited to this mysterious meeting about my own job. They didn't notice how my hand tightened around my water glass, how I deliberately slowed my breathing to maintain composure. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the night building a dossier of my own. Every manipulation, every lie, every whisper campaign documented in excruciating detail. And this time, I was also revealing Everland Dynamics' true ownership structure. I had prepared for this moment since Nicholas's first suspicious visit to the company. My cybersecurity team, hired under the guise of routine protection, had been quietly monitoring company emails and recording all visitor interactions in common areas. Standard practice for protecting intellectual property. Those recordings had captured Nicholas's meetings, his careful probing, and finally, his attempts to turn staff against me. With each move he made, I collected evidence, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal my hand. Now, sitting in this boardroom, watching Nicholas's carefully constructed world crumble around him, I felt strangely calm. The manila folder in my hands contained the final piece, the definitive proof of who really controlled this company. "I apologized for the theatrical nature of this meeting," I said, rising once more to face the board. "But I needed everyone here to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Mr. Nicholas Parker has committed multiple serious violations in his attempt to sabotage my role at this company." I paused, letting that statement hang in the air as Nicholas sank deeper into his chair. "His actions have not only targeted me, but exposed Everland Dynamics to significant legal and regulatory risk." Marcus Chen, our board chair, cleared his throat carefully. "What would you like us to do, Ms. Parker?" I took my seat again, folding my hands on the polished table surface. "First, I wanted on record that the board has reviewed and dismissed all allegations against me as categorically false, based on verified documentation and internal review." I glanced at Nicholas, whose complexion had gone from flushed to ashen. "Second, I request that a formal letter be sent to Nicholas's employer detailing his misconduct, including the audio recordings, fabricated evidence, and attempts at corporate espionage." "You can't," Nicholas said, his voice cracking like I hadn't heard since he was 14. "You'll destroy my career, like you tried to destroy mine," I asked, my voice calm but sharp. "The difference is, I have real documents, tracing real actions you took, not the forged garbage you sent, hoping to frame me." I turned back to the board. "Lastly, I want it documented that Nicholas Parker and both of our parents are permanently banned from Everland Dynamics property. Any attempt to contact staff or interfere with operations will result in immediate legal escalation." "Lauren, please!" Mom cried, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "We're family!" I let out a short, cold laugh that surprised even me. Family supports each other. Family cheers your wins. Family doesn't fake documents and spread lies just because they can't handle your success. I pulled out one final folder. My ace. "This," I said, sliding it across the table, "is the acquisition contract for Trans Strategic Holdings." I locked eyes with Nicholas. "Would you like to guess who owns that?" Several directors' eyes widened as they flipped through the pages. Some had speculated about the mysterious private trust behind the recent buyout, but no one knew the identity of the new owner until now. "This is insane," Nicholas stammered, rising halfway from his seat. "You can't afford. You're just a lab geek, just a coder," I finished for him, smiling. "Yes, you've made that quite clear, over and over again." I watched as they stared at the numbers. Numbers that shattered every narrative they'd clung to about who I was and what I was capable of. "You're firing me from my job," Nicholas whispered, his voice small. "No," I said softly. "Your actions fired you, just like you tried to do to me. The only difference, you actually did what you're being accused of." I stood, gathering the last of my documents. "This board meeting is adjourned. Marcus, please ensure all documentation is formally filed and secured." Then I turned to my family. "Nicholas, Mom, Dad, security will escort you out." "Wait!" Nicholas called out, his voice cracking as I reached the door. "Please! I'm sorry. I was jealous. I couldn't handle that. You were finally doing better than me." His voice shook. "We can fix this, can't we? We're still family." I turned back one last time, Do you know the difference between us, Nicholas? He looked up, eyes glossy with unshed tears. When you thought I was struggling, you pushed me down further. When I succeeded, I kept it quiet to avoid making you feel small. I exhaled slowly. That's the difference between real success and whatever game you've been playing. The next few weeks transformed everything. Nicholas lost his job. His employer wasted no time. Once they reviewed the evidence of his sabotage, word of my success at Everland Dynamics leaked, and suddenly, the same country club crowd that had fawned over my brother started asking about me. Mom and Dad left teary voicemails. Nicholas sent handwritten apologies. Even his therapist mailed a letter explaining he was doing the work. I archived them all, without replying. 3 months later, I was working late when my assistant buzzed my office. "There's someone here to see you. Says it's personal." It was Nicholas, but not the polished, cocky version I'd grown up with. He looked thinner, older hair, shorter, no flashy watch, no tailored blazer, just a plain button-down and a manila envelope. "I'm not staying," he said quickly, raising a hand. "I just need to say something." He stepped forward, placing the envelope on my desk. "This has everything: passwords, contacts, info I dug up while trying to sabotage you. I'm also sending a letter to the board and my former employer, owning everything. No excuses." I watched him silently. "Why now?" I finally asked. "Because you were right," he said, his voice steady for the first time in months. "I wasn't building anything real. You did, and I hated you for it." He turned to leave, then hesitated at the door. "I'm starting over. Small startup, entry level. No shortcuts this time." He looked at the floor. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that letting me fail taught me more than our parents ever did by helping me cheat." "Nicholas," I called softly. He turned back, hope flickering in his eyes. "Send me your resume in a year," I said. "Not for a leadership role, but if you're serious about earning things the right way, we're always looking for people willing to work from the ground up." A single tear slipped down his cheek, but he gave a small nod, collected himself, and left without another word. 6 months later, Everland Dynamics has surpassed even my most optimistic projections. We're developing life-changing biotech solutions, expanding rapidly, and creating hundreds of new jobs across the Pacific Northwest. Something real, something lasting. Mom and Dad still send the occasional message, usually when they need something or want to name-drop their CEO daughter at dinner parties. I keep contact polite, but distant. The approval I once craved so desperately, I don't need anymore. The corner office they said I'd never earn has a perfect view of the Seattle skyline. Some nights I sit by the window, watching the sun dip behind the mountains, thinking about family, ambition, and the strange power of being underestimated. Last week, I received a holiday card from Nicholas. No guilt, no request, just a quiet note. "You succeeded not because of us, but despite us. I'm learning to do the same." Maybe that's the real revenge. Quiet, earned, undeniable. Thank you for listening to my story, for seeing me when so many people I loved couldn't. If you've ever been the quiet one, the underestimated one, the one who had to build from the shadows while others took the spotlight, I see you sometimes. Your quiet resilience is your loudest strength. And if you're on your own journey right now, working late nights, being overlooked, underestimated, keep going, keep building. Let your success speak louder than your pain, because if I've learned anything, it's this. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were always right to believe.